Welcome to Artless Nap. This is Amanda Jeffers.
And this is Sonya Fergeson.
And we'd like to thank you, Anthony, for having us here today.
Welcome to Artless Nap.
Welcome back to Artless Nap. My name is Anthony Pego. I am your host. I am here today with two women who ran in House District 91. We've got Amanda Jeffers and we've got Sonya Fergeson. And this is a running thing with my podcast. I get everybody's name wrong. I think it's just the nervous thing whenever we start the whole thing out. But I'll learn your names, and I apologize. You do have an interesting story about how you two met, right? And it had to do with this race.
Absolutely. Yeah. We met because of the race and really found out from the race and being opponents, like, how much we actually have in common.
Yeah, and we kind of connected because as a candidate, you're going through this experience that nobody else can really understand except for another candidate. So we found ourselves talking on the phone late at night about issues with trying to get volunteers out and things like that. So we kind of became confidants and so
that's interesting. I would have figured all political opponents would have had severe hatred, and you're running mud-slinging campaigns and looking up the dirt.
I don't think we're that kind of candidate.
Yeah,
so
that's the thing.
It's not the kind of people we are.
Right. And I think we were both so excited that we haven't had any women run in our district, at least on the Democratic ticket.
Sure.
And I don't know how long. So I went back to the 1980s and I still couldn't find anybody.
Wow.
So I think women want to be supportive of each other. And so I think we were just really excited, and we couldn't be mean to each other.
Well, you had some compatibility to begin with.
Right.
You both had backgrounds in education. Is that right?
Right.
And then what are your backgrounds in education?
I taught for 5 years at the University of Oklahoma. I taught freshman writing. And then this last year was my first year teaching high school English.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
How are those high schoolers?
I love them. I really do love them. It's more challenging, but it's more rewarding because you get to see them every day and you get to know more about who they are. And, they really open up to you. You become like a counselor and sometimes even like a parent. So more work, but more reward.
Right. We are outside. I'm going to apologize to everybody listening so far. It is extremely hot in the garage, which is where I usually film, and it is the middle of summer here in Oklahoma. So we've got all the cicadas. And
I love the cicadas. I think it's a very peaceful sound.
Well, you're going to hear probably a squirrel jump down on top of this coverage here. It's going to be interesting, but we'll make do with what we've got. What happened in your race? You had an interesting, there was a runoff. And
yes.
That was late June?
Well, we had the primary in late June, and no one won by 50% plus. So we were scheduled to have a runoff, Sonya and I, and Sonya graciously withdrew, which it really helps my campaign focus its resources on the November general. So I think that she knew that was our best chance in succeeding in November. So
that's really smart.
Yeah.
That way you're not burning through all your money to run against.
Because we do not actually have the funding that the incumbent actually has. So I just kept thinking about the fact that there were two Amandas on the ballot. That was kind of a
challenge. Yes.
So, and I'm also trying to start a business with my husband and brother and sister-in-law. And so I just kept thinking about how much we needed to not spend any of our limited budget combating each other. And it certainly made it easier that we are so politically aligned.
Right. And you didn't just drop everything to go work on the business, which I would understand. You're still you're going to be involved after the race? Are you going to continue?
I am going to definitely help Amanda with her campaign. I'll go door knocking. But the business we're hoping to have running at least beginning of September.
Okay.
Maybe earlier.
And tell everybody, what does this entail? You have some medical, your husband is?
Yes. Both Amanda and I are both married to nurse practitioners.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a family member who is transgender. And that was part of the equation. But hormone therapy is where we're going to focus.
Okay.
And it will be for women, men, and honestly, after after we reach the age of 35, our hormones change, and we don't have quite the energy that we used to have.
Right.
And, hormone imbalance, it's so important to think about, why you're not sleeping.
Sure.
Why you're tired.
Maybe I need to come and visit that clinic or whatever.
I think that, it's down the street from you. So you should definitely do that. We can do that while we're out walking and door knocking.
Yes, and get some more energy.
Yes, we're going to need it.
I actually, I guess I talk a little bit about my own health issues and personal stuff here on the podcast. So anything's fair game. You can talk about whatever. Back in my late 20s, early 30s, was tired in the morning. Couldn't really get up, and this wasn't a thing that I was used to. And I went to the doctor, and they measured my testosterone, and it was just like nearly non-existent. So for about a year and a half, I had the shots done and everything, and it totally helped. And they were careful about everything. They monitored the progress, and then once I didn't need it anymore, for some reason, we still don't know what happened. We think maybe my bike riding, the seat and everything was wrong, and I was spending so much time on it. It stopped production a little bit, and got back to it with good diet and working out and kind of just taking care of myself. Everything kicked back in. So,
well, and I think too that once you have some kind of treatment to kind of get you back in balance, your body kind of gets used to where it needs to be.
Yeah.
So a lot of times I think people don't have to be on hormone therapy for long periods of time. Sometimes, like it's just for a short amount of time.
Yeah. And this isn't just for people who have temporary issues. You talked about transgendered, and I think I've read that there's a severe lack of, expertise for practitioners who they don't really specialize in doing the hormone therapy for people who are going through the transformation.
It's true, and because I have a family member, actually I have two family members that are transgender. And because of that, and knowing what a limited resource we're looking at, my husband was not terribly happy with his emergency room job, but loves what he does. And really, it just seemed like the solution. It's an underserved population.
Yeah.
It needs to be addressed. And I don't know if you all know this, but Oklahoma has a very high population of transgender.
Wow. I did
nationally. So
I did not know that.
So the need is there,
Yeah.
and we don't really have the resources.
No, we haven't set it up. It seems like that's something that we're going to go ahead and try and go through terms here. The liberal sect, the progressives, the Democrats tend to be a little more favorable, having that demographic support them or vocalizing their own support for those communities. And I'm not dogging on Republicans and their beliefs, but I feel like that's just not a group that they reach out for, at least traditionally. But you've mentioned you were at some point a Republican.
Yes.
What are your views right now on the LGBT community, the trans?
I'm definitely an ally. In fact, I think one of the ways that Sonya and I bonded is there was a candidate group that was sponsoring a float in the Pride Parade recently here in Oklahoma City.
Yep.
And I knew that she had family. I didn't even have multiple family members, but I knew she had at least a family member who was transgender. So I reached out to her and said, "You've got to come and be a part of this group." So I want the people of Oklahoma to know that I support everyone.
Yeah.
And I think that everyone's rights matter.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely an ally. So.
Yeah. We had 112 educators or educated related individuals run for office. They signed up. Did you go with that big group here in Oklahoma that there was the big push to go and sign up, and they kind of scared the hell out of everybody in the Capitol, and they saw the kind of the blue wave coming? I know there were Republican teachers that signed up as well.
Are you talking about the walkout?
Yeah, the walkout.
Oh, yes. In fact, my teacher friend who went to the Capitol with me every day is a Republican who lives in our district, actually. So, yes, I was there. Sonya was there every day.
For 9 days, right? Is that...
Yes, for 9 days. And that was really frustrating. And I think that like what we saw from that is that leadership wasn't listening not only to the teachers who were Democrats, but to teachers who were in their own party.
Right.
And really, education is not a partisan issue.
No, well, I mean, your goal wasn't to get like new Cadillacs and parking spots for all of the teachers, right? That's not.
No. It was to provide, I know that they did pass a pay raise, right? Yeah. So that was a step in the right direction. But what we really were lacking was funding for the classroom, to get the classroom sizes down, to get, at my school, I'm fortunate at Crooked Oak High School here in Oklahoma City, that they give us, we have nice furniture, we have enough desks, we have textbooks and things like that. We do lack in some technology. Yeah. But I heard horror stories at the Capitol of some of these teachers who, kindergarten classes with 40 kids.
Oh, geez.
And not enough desks, and, textbooks that are like 12 years old that are falling apart. And, I did, honestly, even though I know there's a problem, I didn't realize how big the problem was until I was having those conversations with other teachers at the Capitol. So that was one of the most valuable things of that experience.
Yep.
Was all the teachers getting together and sharing their experiences, and it let us know, A, we're not alone, and B, wow, some people have it even worse than we do in our own schools.
Yeah.
And for me, I was very, very inspired by the community. The parents were there. They brought their kids.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And even though teachers got their raise out of this, it didn't address one of the other big issues, which we really need more funding for support personnel.
Yes.
And so we still have a lot of battles ahead of us.
For somebody like me who doesn't specialize in education, and I've heard the term support for teaching, for education, what is educational support staff? Who are these people?
Well, I have a sister-in-law that works in Norman, and she's a paraprofessional, and she said, I don't think that you can call me a teacher. And I said, do you teach? And she said, of course, I teach.
Right.
And I said, you are also a teacher. So I think that support personnel begins, that kid that's getting on the bus, we want to be able to pay for a bus driver that is going to send that kid safely on their journey and make them feel good before they get there.
Right. And the people who work at the front desk, they deal with so much. They're there helping kids who have issues. Maybe they're hungry, right? Dealing with checkouts and things, but medical issues. So they're also in that. I believe school counselors are counted as in this group of support personnel.
It's certainly not the standard,
right? It's not the teacher in the classroom, but it's all everyone. The people in the building that help.
Okay.
And none of them are getting paid what they need to get paid. The women in the cafeteria. They really, those are all faces that our kids see every day. Mm-hmm. And we need to take care of them and make sure that when they go home, that they go home and they have earned enough money to feed their own families.
These aren't just 16-year-old babysitters that are taking care of our kids that
are making minimum wage.
Yeah, they have a free bedroom because of their parents and stuff like that. That's not the way it works.
It's not.
Yeah. So this, I got to stop by a few times, but I didn't get to do. I usually vlog or produce some media and stuff. I didn't get to spend a whole lot of time. I was busy with other things. Give me a sense of what this strike. Is it a strike?
Technically,
walkout?
It's a walkout.
Strikes are illegal in Oklahoma. So give me a sense of what it felt like. Was this it felt, and I don't mean this in a bad way, kind of circus-like, like entertaining in the way that a parade or, some vivacious entertainment spectacle would feel or look like?
It certainly was empowering. Get teachers together in big groups, they get things done. But it was more than that. The community supporting. And even, I mentioned a lot of parents that were there, but I actually, I went and did survey stuff for OEA for part of the time and found out that a lot of the people that came didn't even have children.
Yeah.
Some of them were college students. Right. Some of them were elderly people who didn't have children. Some of them were people who never had children, never planned to have children. Yeah. And they still, fundamentally understand the importance of educating our youth and making certain that it's funded appropriately.
Yeah. And there, on the outside of the Capitol, we had a group of high school band teachers that put together a band, right, and played. And they did those things to help generate morale. Yeah. Inside the Capitol, which is where I spent most of my time, it was not like that. Okay. It was, I guess, I don't want to say more serious, but I mean, that's where the conversations were happening with the lawmakers. That's where, like, for me, I stood in line for hours every day trying to get into the gallery and never made it. But on the outside, yeah, I mean, it was, I know what you mean by circus, right? Because there were different characters and personalities who showed up. But I think it's just that people were excited. Mm-hmm. I mean, it was an inspiring atmosphere. Yeah.
I keep hearing, so I keep reading because I post a lot online, and you guys are starting to figure that out. You've seen some posts by friends, sent through my Facebook feed. That's where most of it gets done. I see a lot of comments from naysayers saying, well, what good did the protest do? And they just want to point out, like, nothing happened. And what they would point out is, like, what it was, like $498 million package that was signed off on. And I think something somewhere around there. We'll look it up. And I'll post a link down below to some of those facts. But they like to suggest that package was coming anyway, and that going out there to protest did nothing. There's no point. You're making a show of yourself, and I think that they're suggesting you're making a fool of yourself. I firmly believe that when you go to protest, regardless of what group is going out there, if you believe in supporting that group, it's a good opportunity to network and to get to know those people, to understand what they need, what their needs are, and maybe where to begin discussing things with the opposition or with the legislators to kind of figure out how to get a deal struck. I think that is the point of getting out to protest. Did you guys meet other people and find new groups and find people to support you and the teacher? Do you feel like you got some more votes because of going out there?
I did. I made friends with some of the teachers I met there, and they are now following my campaign on Facebook and volunteering. But like you said, what it allowed was this opportunity for conversations to take place. Yeah. And that's really important. And, the thing is that we didn't go into the walkout expecting to not come out with more. Yeah. Right? That was the legislature's decision to not give us more. Right. So, but even though we didn't get more money, what I think it did was it helped generate public awareness of the problem and how big it is. When you see all of these teachers, and teachers are respected members of the community, when you see all of these teachers out there doing this, it let the people of Oklahoma know this is that bad. Yeah. This is serious. Yeah. And so I think that is one of the most valuable things. The second thing that I think as a teacher is the most valuable thing to me is that we as teachers got to show our students what we tell them is important in life. Okay, sorry, I didn't say that the right way. But for example, I'm always telling my students that the purpose of education is to become more civically engaged. And what they got to see was their teachers out there doing that. We are practicing what we are preaching in the classroom. Right. And when we came back, my seniors were writing papers on issues that they care about. Wow. Before the walkout, they were all like, I don't know that I really care about anything. There's a lot of apathy. After the walkout, they all had ideas. They were all excited. They were all asking questions. So it led to more engagement in the classroom. Yeah, I'd like to see the numbers. I know that in Florida, after the shooting, and I don't ever want the shooting to be the thing that is the reason that a bunch of kids signed up to vote. But that's what happened in Florida. There was the shooting, and it seems like the legislators completely denied, any opportunity to make stronger, gun regulation. We're not talking about ripping guns out of people's hands or anything like that. We're talking about being smarter, you know. And I think they doubled the number of kids who had the youth that had signed up to vote from the previous year. Doubling it is no joke. Right. If you look at something like 17% increase, that's a wave. And so you've got like 50% more or like 100% more. That's incredible. I'd like to see what we had here in Oklahoma. I think we can figure that out somehow. We'll have to look into that and see what happened.
I thought it was interesting, and you probably found this too, when we were door knocking, finding students who were still in high school or young adults, and this was going to be their first time to vote. I noticed that sometimes the parents were Republican, and the young people voted registered as Democrats or Independents. Yeah, and I think that says a lot about how was this effective? Right. The amount of educators and women who said enough is enough, and it's not just education.
Yeah.
Right.
I think that the people of Oklahoma have spoken. They're tired of the way things are.
Mhm.
The
Yeah.
status quo is not working for us.
No.
I mean, I have some registered Republicans who are volunteering on my campaign.
Wow.
And the thing that really drove them to it, A, it's the first time to ever volunteer. And that and now B, like they're doing it for a Democrat. And it's because they care about this issue of education.
Mhm.
So I do think that the whole walkout was a success,
Yeah.
even though it didn't get us more money for the classroom.
And it certainly didn't address the needs of the support staff.
Of the support staff, yes.
Right.
And we can't forget about the state employees too, right?
Mhm.
Who were also asking.
Of course.
Right. So, and that's what I actually tried to tell. I would have some voters who would say, it's not that I don't support teachers getting a pay raise, but I'm a state employee and I don't make a lot of money, or I'm a firefighter, or I'm a police officer. And I said, being for teachers getting more money is not being against other groups getting more money, because that's the thing. We are all having this problem.
Right.
Absolutely.
Everyone needs to get more money, which is why I also support raising the minimum wage in the state.
Ah, yeah. Having a living
absolutely.
wage.
It's
Yeah.
important.
Yeah.
That is important. We will come back in just a few minutes. We're going to take a short break, and we'll talk about voting and registering and a few more progressive platforms, what you believe in. And we'll be right back with Artless Nap. Welcome back to Artless Nap. We are sitting here talking to some wonderful women about education, about politics, about liberalism. I think more specifically right now about back to education. So I want to touch base with what you were talking about just now. So do you think that secularism in education is important?
Yes, I do. I think we have a diverse group of students who come from different backgrounds. And so that teachers need to keep that in mind when they're teaching, so that they don't alienate students, and that can lead to disengagement from the class, not only on that particular lesson, but long term.
Yeah, and you're not saying there's no room for religious people inside our education system,
right? But just that the curriculum needs to be secular based.
How do we go about that? Is that something that, I guess our legislators approve funding? But there are boards. The Board of Education, I guess, goes through the curriculum and decides which textbooks are to be, bought and which one. Like what the lessons. Do they go through the lesson plans from the teachers? And,
Oh no. I mean, I know I submit my lesson plans to my principal,
yeah.
who looks at those things. But I mean, at a higher level, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's more about I guess hiring and just kind of the quality of available teachers in our regions.
And I think that it comes down to teacher development and training with teachers and having those discussions and professional development about what's appropriate and what's not appropriate.
Yeah. Do you feel like let's say an atheist teacher would be less capable of teaching a child than a religious teacher?
No, not at all. And in fact, I mean, I feel that I'm not. I won't say that an atheist teacher would be more equipped. But I do think that anybody who is outside of the norm in their thinking is more maybe aware of the fact that there are other people that are outside of the norm, and they're more conscious of that.
Yeah.
I would agree with that. And I think that, we are a country that is definitely built on separation of church and state.
Yeah.
And I don't necessarily feel that school districts always separate.
Yeah.
I think that they don't always separate. And maybe they're not as inclusive as they should be.
Sure.
Right. And inclusive, that's a dangerous word, right? In this state.
Yeah.
There's an idea that being inclusive means that you're catering to a smaller group of the population. And it's not about that. It's about just not alienating people.
Yeah. You mentioned that you identify, and I know that's become a dirty word too. You identify as a feminist.
Yes.
What is feminism to you?
Feminism to me is just about equality.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about saying that women are better than men. And I think there is a false impression that that's what the word means. It's about saying that women are as capable as men in all realms of society.
Yeah. Can a man be a feminist?
Yes, my husband, who's a Republican, is a self-identified feminist.
Uh-huh.
So, and he has daughters, and and I think that really helped him see that he was a feminist, because he wants to know that they'll be included in all the things that he was able to do.
Yeah. What do you think people think a feminist is? The ones who are maybe misinformed or haven't spent time looking into it.
I think that there's just a lot of rhetoric out there that feminism is about man bashing.
Yeah.
And it's not. I have a son and a husband whom I love very much, both of them. And so it's not about hating men. It's about saying that we love women and we want women to be able to have the same opportunities.
Yeah.
I think it's important to empower women. I think it's important to have diversity. And I think that everyone has strengths that they bring to a table. So why would we want to stop that from happening? I think that's progressive. I think that's moving forward. I think that limiting our spectrum on anything is ridiculous. And I just wanted to ask you, would you identify yourself as a feminist?
Oh, yeah. I'm definitely a feminist, yeah. And it is about equal rights for me. Anything that gives me an ism where I'm not denying other people of their rights, you can tack me on board. I'm going to go ahead and fight for that. I think I show that in my discussions online. I try to do a bit of research here and there every morning to see who's actually being targeted in legislation. And then just in culture. I mean, today we have maybe not more issues with hatred for, certain ethnicities, certain, like immigration's a big deal.
Absolutely.
Right now. And anytime I see that going on, I mean, I'm half Native American, and I grew up with my father telling me to be careful about admitting you're Native American. Because he couldn't whenever he was a child.
Yeah.
I fortunately I grew up the late 70s and on. It became a little hippie-ish and cool to take on Native American, like clothing or jewelry, or like to appreciate the culture and stuff like that.
Right.
They were no longer like this class that was even below, second-class citizens, third-class citizens. They were just something to be tossed away, in his opinion, at least. And I was very clearly warned against admitting to that.
And I find that so interesting, because you're the Native Americans, and we're losing a little bit of that culture.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate on so many levels.
Yeah.
And I'd like to bring up a good point. It, like you said, it's better for you now, right, than it may have been for your father. And I think, like, when it comes to feminism, things are definitely much better for women now than they were. I mean, a few years before I was born, women couldn't even open a bank account without permission from a man.
Right.
And that just blows my mind.
Yeah.
So I think there's this idea that we don't need feminism anymore, because things are better. But we constantly see attacks.
Well, I heard the same argument about racism before Obama was elected. Well, racism doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. I wish
Why
that were
prove a
true.
point? Yeah, no joke. We've got something that seems to be on the radar for, I guess, the far right, and that's abortion, pro-choice, or Roe versus Wade more particularly. We've just put in place Supreme Court. Well, no, sorry. We've just put forward a candidate to be the next Supreme Court justice, and it looks like he might be willing to overturn Roe versus Wade. Have any thoughts on the legality issues for abortion?
Now we're really getting into it, huh? Yes. Abortion is a tough topic in this state, isn't it? But I think that it's important for voters to know that I'm pro-choice, and that pro-choice is not about being pro-abortion.
Right.
I think that you can be pro-choice and decide for yourself that abortion goes against your moral compass.
Yeah.
What pro-choice is about is about empowering women to make that decision for themselves based on their individual circumstances, whether that be economic, social, or even health related.
Yeah.
No one should be deciding that but a woman herself, and taking into account the advice of people that she trusts.
Yeah.
So I am definitely pro-choice.
Yourself?
I am absolutely pro-choice, and I think that a lot of times people associate that with being pro-abortion, and I don't think that anyone is actually pro-abortion.
Right.
I don't think anyone goes out in life thinking,
Hey, that sounds like a
that's
great
what I'm gonna
idea.
do.
Let's go murder babies.
Yeah,
Right.
it's expensive, it's invasive, it's
Traumatic.
emotionally, yes.
And I just think that, I mean, Amanda and I had a conversation about how we've led privileged lives
Right.
and that we have not been faced with this kind of decision.
Right.
And, you know, we are very fortunate that we live the lives that we live. And I don't think that someone else gets to decide for another woman if it's okay for her to have an abortion, because there are so many extenuating circumstances that are so far beyond the scope of maybe what people are talking about. And I think that, you know, part of it really is there's a stigma, and women were having abortions before
Yes.
Roe versus
Right.
Wade. It's just that many of them were dying from them, and
Right.
they were doing it illegally. And I just hate for women's rights to be taken away.
Right.
I know Amanda and I talked extensively about that and how hard it is.
And I mean, I have daughters who are just reaching puberty, right?
Yeah.
And I worry for them about a future in which, if Roe versus Wade were overturned and it was left up to states, and being in the state of Oklahoma, if it was banned, I worry about things like increase in suicide rates.
Yeah.
Or, like you said, deaths from trying to do abortions by other methods. And, you know, I think about this culture of YouTube, right?
Yep.
Where girls
Yes.
would be turning to YouTube and the internet for ideas on how to self-abort.
Oh, good Lord.
I mean, it would create a public health crisis.
Right.
And I think that if you love the women in your life, you want to protect their health and safety.
Yeah. I think boiled down, you can simply say that making abortion illegal doesn't make abortion go away.
Oh, exactly. It does not.
Yeah. So you feel like we're making progress in getting the message out there, or can we do more to bring people on board with this idea?
I do think we do need to do more. And I think that the reason we haven't is because I know candidates like myself. I'm running in a conservative district, and I want to reach out to conservative voters. And I know that this is a hot button issue for them.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, the advice to candidates is usually to avoid these
Right.
issues. But that, you know, disrupts dialogue and these important conversations that we need to be having.
Yeah.
So I understand that coming out as pro-choice and making that a part of my my campaign could be self-defeating. So that is something I personally struggle with as a candidate.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it is something that I care passionately about, and do think that we need to do more in the way of having important conversations
Right,
in our communities about it.
I feel like maybe there's been a little bit of it's been lost on the Conservative Party a little bit, the idea of personal responsibility. I think that personal responsibility isn't something Democrats have avoided either. I just think they took that message upon themselves for their own party, and I think that should be fit on top of the idea of either being pro-choice or trying to limit people's rights. So they want forever. We've heard from Republicans that states' rights were a huge deal.
Right.
So I think first of all, maybe go ahead and try and fight for like what you believe in for a state, but really reflect on whether you're taking away somebody's ability to have this personal responsibility. You know, make this
I
choice
agree
for
with that.
themselves,
Yeah.
and especially when we're talking about a health issue, this isn't just like am I going to be able to afford this child? There are legitimate medical issues where
Right.
somebody can pass away themselves, you know, or that, you know,
Absolutely.
there's a choice between the child and the mother, and I understand those are complex situations, but like you said, nothing is black and white. There are shades of gray throughout the entire spectrum of the whole ordeal. I know this is a heavy topic, and we can revisit that in a minute if you want, but I'm interested. You mentioned prison reform on the phone when we talked a little
Yes.
bit ahead of time, and you said you have a personal experience with the prison system here. Is it here in Oklahoma?
Yes. I mean, and I don't think he'll mind sharing, because we've talked about it. My husband, not my husband, just kidding. My brother is currently in jail. He's not in the prison system, but he's in the county jail system on drug-related charges for marijuana.
Yep.
So, you know, I know that addiction, which he also has other addictions. It's not just marijuana, but he
Sure.
has addiction with heroin.
Yeah.
And I know that that's something that touches a lot of families in Oklahoma. And I know that for him, when we tried to find him help, that was really hard unless we had a lot of money.
Yeah.
And I would like to see the state invest more in providing drug rehabilitation counseling and services instead of jail or prison time. Right. It makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. My only critique in reforming prison by making alternative forms of, I guess, criminal prosecution would be drug courts seemingly are a good idea, but I've been recently reading up on a lot of the pitfalls from them, and that would be where in order to get people into drug programs, and this is just one of them, there are many, criticisms. There's criticisms for everything. Where the way they convince some of these accused would be to say, this is a program you can go into, but if you fail it, your criminal, let's see, how's this, like, I guess your fines and the amount of time you spend in jail is going to be way more severe. So
I don't agree with that at all. Addiction is something that someone battles with lifelong. Right. I don't think there should be punitive damages for failing at an attempt to rehabilitate, because that's going to be a struggle this person goes through throughout their life, and they're going to have times that they relapse. Yeah. And so we don't need to make it harder on them for, imposing fines.
Sure.
And the criminal system is, the whole court system is very biased. If you have money, then you have alternatives.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
You have choices that you can make, and if you don't have any money, then you basically lose everything.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I recently went to court over a parking violation and got to sit through many, many people who were getting out of the prison system after serving their time. They don't have any money. They don't have a driver's license that has been revoked.
Getting a job is hard.
They can't get a job.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very challenging, if not downright nearly impossible, to get past that and move on if you don't have economical resources to help you through it.
Right. I think that there's a clear problem with the disparity between the middle class and the upper class and the lower class. The middle class is disappearing.
Right. I'm like, what middle class?
Yeah, right, exactly.
The one that gets taxed for everything.
Yeah.
Lower class is growing, and the upper class is gaining huge amounts of wealth by investing in kind of our social issues and, of course, like business. There's a lot of decent, good things going on with, I guess it depends on how you feel about companies and regulation and oversight and things like that, when you remove oversight and the ability to, you increase the ability to dump waste into, a river and not give a crap about it, not worry about the cleanup.
Right.
You're going to be more profitable as a company, and those stocks are going to go up. But I think that the disparity between the haves and the have-nots and how you can defend yourself and pursue happiness, that's one of our rights, afforded to us by the Constitution. It's a big deal, and I am really, genuinely, truly of the opinion that the only way to change this is to get out and vote. And I think that that's critical, especially right now.
And I think that there's a large percentage of the population, especially in this state, who feels that their vote doesn't matter. And so they disengage.
Right. Well, we got Bernie in there on the ticket for a while.
We did. I was very happy to see that he won in the state of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. And I think that he could have done really well in the presidential election as well.
Now you have a little bit of knowledge about Bernie.
Right.
No, why?
Well, I volunteered. Let's see, 2016, how old was I? I don't know. Late 30s, okay? Bernie spoke to me. I'm a feminist. I wanted to see a woman as president, and I was a Hillary supporter until I heard Bernie's message. Yeah. And I think it was the economic component, and I really see that the root of all of our problems are economics. And so that spoke to me. I thought, we can't even address these other issues until we make sure that people have the resources that they need. And our legislators cannot address these issues until we make sure that their interests is based on the interests of the voters and not corporate donors.
Okay. Well, I gotta ask, are you a dirty damn socialist?
Now listen. Okay, so the word socialism, democratic socialist is what Bernie calls himself.
Right.
Some people argue with me and say, well, no, it's a social democrat is what you want to call yourself. Here's the thing. I believe that the government, there are certain things that the government should have its hands on, such as public education, right?
Yep.
That's a socialist idea, right?
Yep.
Public education, our library system, national parks.
Yeah.
What would happen if we privatized the Grand Canyon?
Well, we're kind of starting to sell off those lands.
Right, right. With it, my family was able to go to Yellowstone for under $500 and have a vacation.
Wow.
That's because of the public park system.
Right.
If we didn't have that, it would be like trying to go to Disney World.
Yeah.
If we even were allowed to go there because there weren't private residences built there. So I do think that a lot of people in this country support socialist ideas, but they just aren't aware that that's what those are.
Yeah, if you've got a fire going on at your house.
Right.
And you've got the fire. We tried privatizing, our firemen started off as privatized.
Right, you had to pay a fee in order to get the service.
Yep, and there'd be guys watching your house burn down because you didn't pay that fee.
Exactly. And so we saw that this is a public safety issue and that everybody should have the right to have the fire put out at their house, right? And so we built that into our taxes.
Right.
And so I think that right now we're seeing this conversation largely because of healthcare and the debate over whether or not healthcare should be included along with things like the national parks and public education and public libraries. And I would agree that it should be. I feel that everybody has a right to not only emergency healthcare, right, which anybody can go in and get, but preventative healthcare.
Right.
That's what we need. Everyone needs to have insurance so that they don't end up in an emergency room.
Sure, yeah, it's better. It's better for the nation if we have healthy people who are taken care of, as opposed to having to cover their bankruptcy, their losses, their and their families won't be as productive if they're taking care of these sick individuals.
Right. And I want to say that this does not mean that you have to be opposed to capitalism.
Right.
Right. And Bernie said this, but I think it fell on deaf ears. You can support capitalism. And allowing businesses to exist and operate, and say that just within the realm of this issue, we want to put this in the hands of the government. Yeah. So we've done that with education.
Right.
Why are we so afraid to do that with healthcare?
Right.
And we actually have done it with healthcare in some regards, right?
Some degree.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think Democrats did a lot of negotiations and talked themselves down from a lot of really good things, and we've got kind of a middle ground at this point.
Right.
And some of that's being proposed to be ripped away. Like they've backed off a little bit. Within the last couple of weeks, I think Republicans have decided it's not a winning issue to bring up right before the election.
Right.
Yeah.
But like here in the state of Oklahoma, we've seen cuts in our Medicaid program where pregnant women who were on Sooner Care used to be able to get dental health care.
Oh, wow.
Now they can't. And not having dental health care can actually affect the health of a pregnancy.
Yeah.
So we're seeing a cut in services because our state has refused to take advantage of the Medicaid expansion program. That's federal money that's there. It's set aside for our state. The people in the state pay federal taxes.
Yeah.
We should see that coming back to us and to help make sure that our citizens are covered. And this helps businesses. This is what I don't understand. This helps actually with capitalism.
Yeah.
If you're a small business owner or even a corporation, you want to have healthy employees.
Right.
I mean, my campaign is about common sense.
Right.
And compassion.
So what happens, when is, in your detailed plan, once you get into office, when are you going to take all of the corporations and just hand them over to the government so that they run, all of the industries, the production? When are we just going to steal everybody's corporations and the production and everything?
That's not going to happen. That's not going to happen, okay? I mean, I support free enterprise. I support people's ability to be able to start companies, and I want to see them grow and thrive, and I want people to be able to be successful.
Yeah.
I just want everybody to have that opportunity at success.
Okay. And your thoughts on medical marijuana and recreational marijuana?
Okay, so yes, I support medical marijuana, but I do support recreational marijuana, and that
May I intervene here? Like you were talking about your brother having addiction issues.
Right.
But do you think that marijuana is addictive, or do you think that he was trying to medicate himself for things like we had talked about previously, like anxiety and things.
Well, that's a huge component, right? He wasn't getting treated for other issues.
Mm-hmm.
But for him, like with his heroin and meth addictions, when we have marijuana criminalized, what it forces people to do is go to a criminal element as a supplier.
Yeah.
That puts them in proximity of other things. So it's not that marijuana is a gateway drug.
Right.
Okay. If you smoke marijuana, does not mean that you're going to then move on to other things. But when you have to go to a supplier, and that maybe you actually get marijuana that is laced with other things. Yeah. Or you get influenced by the supplier to try other things.
Right.
If we had legalized recreational marijuana and we had safe dispensaries, then consumers would know that they were getting a safe product in a safe environment.
Yep.
And that would actually, I think, reduce their exposure to some of these other drugs.
And do you believe that it would also like cut back so much on the opioid addiction issues?
Oh, yes. Yes.
I mean, because that's a huge issue.
Number one right now. Yeah.
Right. Opioids, which are legal, right, are a huge issue for people. And so, like, as far as, like, medical marijuana, that gives people a more natural, safer alternative. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's one way definitely to cut down on that problem.
Right.
But I think the reason we're having problems in this state right now is because we legalized medical marijuana and we are trying to regulate it as a medicine, which makes sense if you think of it in that context. But at the same time, I think most of us support, maybe I'm speaking for too many people, most of us support recreational marijuana. We don't think it needs to be regulated in the same way that we regulate other pharmaceuticals.
Yeah, I think we got approved for the new petition, the recreational petition, in like February or something, and it needed, 50,000 signatures or something, and we're 10,000 signatures away. I think they're questioning whether it will be on the ballot November 6th.
Well, I question if we are going to absolutely stay true to medical marijuana for treating a variety of issues, including, pain for cancer patients, nausea for sure, to help them get through their treatments. I just think that we're not really looking at the fact that if our state wasn't trying to make so many regulations, that maybe if a patient has an anxiety issue, that might be a better remedy for them.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would make access easier. Mm-hmm. And the thing is I do think that for people who have medical issues, that going through your primary care physician and getting a prescription lets that person know the dosage that they need. Right. That helps give them some guidance. But should marijuana itself be treated as a pharmaceutical? No, I don't think so. I compare it to alcohol. Yep. Alcohol has some health benefits, right? Mm-hmm. But imagine if you had to go to your doctor to get a prescription, right?
And then go. At one point, had to. Right. Back during Prohibition, they would give you a little prescription. There were still manufacturers of alcohol here in the United States, and they'd give you a little medical bottle. And some of those prescriptions were handed out all loosey-goosey to people with money, and that was how they got around the need for the prescription. Right. I've got the vapors, and I need.
Yes. Do you feel that there's a lack of trust in our healthcare our healthcare system, like who our prescribers are, who is in the healthcare system? Do you feel that there's a lack of trust by, like pharmaceutical companies?
Okay, yes, that maybe that they're wanting to have like a checks and balance on the doctors. Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to say that there are no bad doctors that would try to capitalize on this. But my philosophy on life is to trust people until they give you a reason to not trust them. And doctors are very educated and capable, and I think that they should feel a bit slighted by this.
Well, and there's a system in place. I mean, they have a board.
Right,
and
exactly. They have their license, right? Their license, I mean, if they're being unethical, their license can be revoked, and they'll lose their livelihood.
Yep.
Right.
Yep, that's exactly right. On a more light note, I heard that you guys went to the Pride Parade.
Yes.
It was fantastic.
I want to know everything about it. What happened?
Well, we went with a group, the Blue Wave group.
Yes, and we made a float. That was
In the rain.
In the rain. It was very
Oh.
rainy that day. It was like, yes.
Before the parade.
Yes, before the parade. And so, it was a little stressful because of the rain, but it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And honestly, this was my first Pride Parade to even attend. So
wow.
then to attend as a participant,
Yeah.
right? So I think I missed out because I didn't get to see as much as I would have liked to have seen because we were in line to be in the parade. But what I did see was like Oklahoma City Public Schools had a bus, right?
Wow.
With teachers
Yes,
saying,
absolutely.
we love all of our students.
Wow.
UPS had trucks, right?
They did. So did Cox
And
Cable.
we saw churches there.
Churches, definitely.
And to me, the whole thing was a message about love and acceptance.
Yeah.
And I thought that was just really inspiring.
Are you going to go back?
Yes, I am. And I felt awful because I didn't bring my kids with me because, well, kids are work. I've got 3 little kids, and I didn't want to be trying to build a float with them in tow. But it would have been a really cool experience. So I'm going to go back.
Good.
And I'm going to bring my family, and we're all going to participate. And I'm looking forward to that. In fact, we're saving we bought, Sonya organized the balloon letters that spelled out vote in rainbow colored balloons. And we saved the skeletons of those to reuse.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, speaking of vote, people need to check their registration. We've had recently some warnings coming out about rolls being, I don't think expelled is the right word, but they're getting rid of a lot of non-active voters. And
Yes, and I had actually a voter, a neighbor of mine who lives on my street, and he was dropped off, and he said he didn't understand why because he actually does actively vote.
Oh, wow.
So yes, you do want to check your registration, even if you have been actively voting. And if you haven't registered, you want to register. In fact, knowing that we were going to talk about this, I pulled up some dates to let your listeners know. The last date to register to vote for the general election on November 6th is October 12th.
Okay. October
Okay.
12th.
And if you want to vote by absentee ballot, you have until 5 p.m. on October 31st on Halloween.
That's easy to remember.
Yes.
Halloween.
To request the absentee ballots. So, October 12th, make sure you have registered.
And if you're curious, there are a couple resources. I'll throw them in links down below. There's badvoter.org, but I will throw the rest of the links down at the bottom.
badvoter.org.
I know. And I actually had him on one of my podcasts. David Glover's his name, a couple of podcasts ago. He's an interesting guy. I really enjoy talking to him. We're going to take a real quick break, and then we'll have the last segment where we just chat about whatever the heck we want. We will be right back with Artless Nap. Welcome back to Artless Nap. I am still Anthony Pego, and this is still Sonya Fergeson.
And Amanda Jeffers.
Yeah, hi guys. Let's talk about whatever the heck you want, but I want to start it off with Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Where do you guys go? What are your favorite eateries? Do you go and dance? What are dance parties?
Well, I admit with teaching and parenting, I'm behind on the socializing. But
Pub W is around the corner, so go there and meet for
I don't think I know about Pub W. What's this?
Oh, it's really great. They have these great hush puppies.
Okay.
that I love, and it's where my volunteers, we have met there and at Starbucks. But I like to go to Shakespeare in the Park.
Oh, nice.
The Civic Center. And see productions when I can afford them.
Yep.
I always want to take my kids with me, but we end up sitting in the nosebleed section to get a family of 5 there.
Mm-hmm.
But
got to show up early.
Yeah, yes.
Which is hard with kids.
Yes.
When's it starting? Oh my god.
I know.
All for Shakespeare, a language that's so foreign when you're a kid.
Yeah. But yeah, so I love that stuff. I need to get out and do more.
Mm-hmm.
And, campaigning, I'm meeting so many interesting people who are involved. And actually, this Thursday, I'm going to Ardmore to see a production of, it's called Crazy for You. One of my donors is in the community theater there. So I'm finding that this is a good excuse to get out and do more.
Mm-hmm.
We just bought our season tickets for the Broadway series again.
Yay.
And we took a couple years off because this was our traditional Christmas gift from my bonus mom, my husband's mom. And we all used to go together. And my mom started coming with us. And we had season tickets for years. And then my bonus mom's health started deteriorating. And she has a form of Parkinson's and has not been able to get out as much. And she's very nervous. And so we just took a couple years off from it, but we just bought our season tickets for next year. I'm pretty jazzed.
Yay!
Our kids are obsessed with musicals.
Oh, cool.
Hamilton is the favorite right now.
I have not seen it.
We haven't seen it. We just know the soundtrack. Everyone's going to go around singing it.
Right.
No, I haven't seen that at all. I'm really interested. If you combine modern music with old school ideals, I mean, come on, you got to have a hit, right?
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, you want to take what's great about, what's old and established by our forefathers and bring it current. And I think that that's what we're doing now.
Yep. What about food? I mean, you may not have, like you said, Pub W, but, are there food trucks, or do you make some specific meal at home that's the hit with the family? What's your deal?
What are you talking about? If you ask my family, Dad is the cook of our household. Oh. Okay, he makes a really mean spaghetti sauce. But I know that it's not a. We love Ted's. Okay, we love Ted's, and my husband's name is Ted, and I'm always telling them, you guys should have a promo where you give people named Ted a discount, right?
Of course.
And a lot of my students, their parents make burritos and things. So
yum.
Yeah. So
favorites?
I don't know if I have favorites. I mean, I didn't really enjoy cooking that much until I met my husband. I love cooking together as a family. We cook everything. We'll do Korean, or we'll do Vietnamese, or my daughter is obsessed with Vietnamese. We don't make the rolls. It just takes too long. The summer rolls we've tried it at home. It's just too time consuming.
Yeah.
But no, it's a fun activity for home to be able to cook stuff.
Yeah.
And we like to try everything, and we're kind of foodies, and we'll plan vacations around food.
All right. Yeah. I want to come on your next vacation.
Yeah, me too. You're treating, right?
I never get to go ever again, I'm pretty sure, because starting a business is rock bottom of I didn't think I'd be this broke again since college.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you can find a way to do cross promotion with a restaurant or two, and do some outdoor activity kind of thing. Bring
That's
awareness.
That's a good idea.
Well,
it really is.
If you need some help on that. Speaking of that, you talked about some art, and I think I remember being a part of Reflections. I don't know if it's been around since the 80s or 90s.
Reflections
I think I
is still
remember
around?
actually winning an award for
Yeah.
Reflections.
Yeah.
So you're still interested in this, and you want help getting some art.
Well, yes. So Reflections is the PTA art competition in it's nationwide. My children's elementary school, Early Wine Elementary, has a really great participation in this program, and my kids have won some awards for it. But a lot of the volunteers on my campaign are also involved in Reflections and PTA, and they suggested a fundraiser idea for my campaign to be doing a silent auction where we can maybe find some local artists that would be willing to contribute some artwork that we could auction off. We also would like to include some student artwork in the silent auction as well.
That's cool.
And that's because, as a teacher in public education, I support the arts. I was a music theater major, actually, before I changed and went in the direction I'm in now. But we've seen so much funding cuts for art programs and things. So I definitely support that. They thought this would be a good way to marry my interest in public education with my need to raise money for this grassroots campaign.
Mm-hmm. And you're not taking big money from Washington D.C. lobbyist groups that want you to...
No, and no corporate PACs. All of the donations that have come in so far to my campaign have just been individuals, mostly people who live in the district. I have some family and friends who live in other parts of the state who are making small donations here and there, and I think that's how campaigns should be funded.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, and I won't accept. I know that the incumbent takes money from 7-Eleven, Cox, all kinds of like corporate PACs.
Big names.
Right? I won't accept money from corporate PACs.
That's cool. So that's a pledge. You're making that
yes,
pledge.
I make that pledge. I will not accept money from corporate PACs. So I definitely need the help of members of the community to help me have the money to get out the literature to remind people about the vote and to inform them about my campaign.
Yeah.
Now, what if you got some like big PAC money from environmentalists? Would you consider it?
I think that there's a difference between corporate PACs, right?
Right.
And I like OEA, right? I'm a member of the teachers union, OEA. They also have a PAC. If they were to want to support me, they have supported my opponent.
Yep.
And before I would take money from certain groups like that.
Yep.
That I believe in their cause.
Yeah.
And I'm very transparent with my voters that these are the causes I support. But as far as like corporations themselves and the PACs that are affiliated with them,
Yeah.
no, because I think that voters should feel that their legislators are making votes based on what's in the best interest of the members of the community, not what's in the best interest of big business.
Yeah. You mentioned earlier an appreciation for music. It seems like maybe we should try and get Elvis Costello out to...
Yes.
Elvis, if you're listening.
Yes, Elvis Costello, if you're listening, please come and do a concert for my campaign.
We would love that. You can write it off, I think.
Yes, yeah. Well, yeah, I don't think you can write it off for tax reasons, but you can feel really great about yourself.
For a teacher from Oklahoma.
Yes.
Come on, that's a big deal.
Yeah, he has a song all about, it's called Every Day I Write the Book, and I love it because it's about love, but it brings in grammar and writing structure and paragraphs,
Wow.
so it's like great.
Are there other musicians that you enjoy? It doesn't matter if it's local, old-timey or new.
I do. I love classic country,
Mm-hmm.
but I also enjoy rap. I'm very diverse in my music appreciation.
You're the cool teacher.
Well, that you'd have to ask my students about that, but I'd like to think I am.
Are you thinking about continuing teaching after all of this is kind of run its course?
Well, of course. I mean, it depends on how it turns out in November. And my school has been really supportive, and my students have been really supportive. They understand that when the election goes in my favor on November 6th, that in the spring I will be leaving the classroom to be at the state capitol.
Right.
But as soon as I'm done with the journey of being a representative for House District 91, I would definitely return to the classroom. My passion is teaching, and so that's where I really want to be.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to take a break from that.
Sure.
To go to the Capitol to do what needs to be done to get the money that I need, my students need, my colleagues need to do this job better.
So you're planning on returning after your 10-year lobbyist stint with the NRA, right?
What? Oh, the NRA.
Mm-hmm. What are your thoughts on guns?
Well, here's the thing. I'm pro Second Amendment, okay?
Mm-hmm.
But I also think that our founding fathers were really smart in how things were written. They understood that they didn't understand all of the challenges that would face us in the future. And so there's some ambiguity that allows room for people to pass legislation that helps with safety, right? So I'm for gun regulation that is common sense.
Yeah.
But I'm not anti-gun. And
Right.
I think I will say this, I was a member of the Republican Party for a while, and I am really upset to see the rhetoric coming out of the right that is saying that Democrats are wanting to take away your guns, because I have heard no Democratic politician make that claim ever.
Right.
I just think that's a scare tactic. And as an English teacher, I'm always teaching my students, when someone's trying to scare you and they're appealing to your emotions over your logical side, that's when you should question their motives and what's up.
Yep.
So, I have family members who have guns. My husband wants me to actually go through the process of getting my permit to carry. He thinks that's important for me if I'm going to be a part of making legislation on that, that I should understand the process.
Sure.
And so I have actually spoken with a volunteer who is in the Oklahoma Highway Patrol, who can hook me up with some people who teach the courses, and I am planning on going through the process of getting my permit.
That's good. I've done that, actually. I've gone through that class, and it is actually a lot of fun. There are incredible people there. The classes are very relaxed, at least the one I went to. I went to, let's see, it's on like North Britain Road or whatever, Britain Road. It's one of the newer gun ranges. I'll have to throw a link down at the bottom, but it's a beautiful, beautiful place. They've got food there. They've got, there's even like a drinking thing, but there's the rules where, you cannot have come in drunk or drinking.
Right. And
then you shoot. And then if you want to relax afterwards, be safe, then you can do that. But the teachers are like super high quality. They're funny. It's, maybe more than an hour. It's a little lengthy. But those are important rules. They really teach you like everything you need to know. And you get out there and you actually shoot with a gun. It's not like sorry, I'm going to cuss here. It's not a bullshit test. It's not regurgitative learning. They don't just like throw some stuff at you. And they want you to understand it. They want you to understand the weapon. And they encourage you to just continue to use the weapon so that it's a tool, not something you're afraid of. And it's not something you're going to abuse.
Right. And I have to admit, I am afraid of guns because I have never really used one. I think I was 9 and I shot a rifle out on the family farm. Yeah. And it kicked back, right? And it hurt my shoulder because I didn't know what I was doing. Yep. And that scared me. And, but I think it's important, especially for people who are making legislation, to be informed. Yep. And I want to show, I know that guns are really important in the state of Oklahoma, and I know people use them for really good reasons. And I want voters to know that I care about that. And I'm willing to put myself in a situation where I'm not as comfortable to gain better understanding of something that they care about.
Yeah. Well, if people want to support your Elvis Costello, if you're listening, how do they, and anybody who wants to donate some artwork or like help you with the campaign, where do they find you?
Okay, so I have a website. It's www.amandajeffers, Jef as in Frank, F as in Frank, ERS.com. And I'm also on Facebook, Jeffers HD91. And my email is jeffershd91@gmail.com.
Mm-hmm. And how do people find you?
Well, they can reach me at Fulcrum Clinic, which is Fulcrum, like the lever or the point of energy, FULCRUN -clinic.com, where they can contact me on my Facebook at Sonya Equality Fergeson. I changed it to Equality a long time ago.
I think that's really cool. I saw that, yeah.
And everyone's like, is that really your middle name? And I'm like, no, my mom wishes she was that cool. And I mean, Amanda and I both talked about like this process and how amazing it has been. Facebook has been an amazing door, it is such a great tool. I mean, I feel that it's even more effective than my website for engaging with voters and volunteers, right? So for people who can't get, if you want to donate money, I'd love it, right? There's a link on both my website and my Facebook page. But I also need people who will come out and knock doors and talk to voters. That is probably, I'm not going to say it's more important than money. We need some money so that we have the literature to pass out at the door. Yeah. But the time, getting out and knocking doors, because that's the way that we flip this district, we flip the state, we have change. It's the conversations that happen at the door. That is the most effective way to get votes. And there's only one of me. And there are nearly 20,000 voters in my district, right? I cannot one-on-one personally talk to every single one, although I'd love to. Yeah. But, I mean, I have a day job. Yeah. I go back in August to teach. Right. So I need volunteers to help me.
All right. Well, give me one little, message to the third of Republican voters you need on your side and the supporters you already have there, something that conjoins the two. Any little message of hope or...
Well, I would say that, we really do need to set aside labels, right? Whether it be Democrat, Republican, progressive, conservative. Those are labels that have been used against us in a way as voters by the people who are in power. Yep. We have to set aside those labels and just talk to each other and be informed. And I think that when voters do that, they are finding that they actually agree with me on a lot of things. And so if we want change, you just got to set aside those labels and listen.
That's right. Get out there and vote.
And vote, yes. Do that. November 6th.
That's right. Sign up before then if you haven't registered.
By October 12th.
Check your registration. Check your registration.
And definitely vote for a candidate and not a party.
Right.
Absolutely.
That is so important.
Because the way we have been doing things has not been effective in so many different things. So
yeah, that reminds me. I want to tell you, I ran for class president my senior year of high school, and I won.
Yay!
And my slogan was "Same people, same results."
Oh.
And that should be my slogan this time: "Same people, same results." So if you don't like the way things are going on in Oklahoma right now, don't vote for the same people.
There you go. Same people, same results. Everybody, thank you for listening to Artless Nap. Check the links below, and thank you, ladies, for coming out and talking to us.
Thank you for having us.
thank you so much. This is a lot of fun.
This is Amanda Jeffers.
And this is Sonya Fergeson. And
Thank you so much for listening to Artless Nap. Good times.
Good times, Amanda. Good times
Good
for District
times.
91.
Good times.
Yeah.
Good times for Oklahoma.